Imagine going an entire day without speaking. No casual greetings, no humming along to music, no quick questions or witty replies. Just silence. This was the challenge I set for myself, a full 24 hours of complete silence. It sounded daunting, maybe even a little frightening, but also intriguing. Could I really do it? And what would I learn about myself and the world around me if I did? Before embarking on this journey into silence, I established a clear set of rules. No talking was allowed, of course, but neither was whispering, singing, or even mouthing words. I could use nonverbal communication like gestures, facial expressions, and written notes if absolutely necessary. The goal was to eliminate spoken language as much as possible and see what happened. With a mix of nervousness and excitement, I took a deep breath and began my day of silence. The first thing I noticed was the peacefulness. My mornings are usually a flurry of activity and noise, but this morning was different. The silence was almost tangible, a soft blanket enveloping my small world. Even making breakfast felt different. I found myself relying on hand signals to communicate with my family, which led to a few amusing misunderstandings but also a surprising amount of laughter. We were communicating in a whole new way, and it was strangely delightful. The real test came when I sat down at my desk to work. As a writer, words are my tools, and being unable to speak them felt incredibly strange. I quickly discovered that tasks that usually took minutes now took much longer. Phone calls were out of the question, and even sending emails required careful thought and planning. I relied heavily on written notes, which I found myself scribbling constantly. Running errands was another adventure. Simple interactions like ordering coffee or asking for directions became exercises in creativity and patience. As the day wore on, I began to feel the weight of the silence. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was definitely noticeable. Socializing was particularly challenging. I joined friends for dinner, and while we were able to communicate on a basic level, the usual ease and flow of conversation were missing. It was then that I realized how much we rely on words, not just to convey information, but to connect with each other on an emotional level. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie. We chose a silent film, of course, which turned out to be a surprisingly enjoyable experience. Without dialogue to distract us, we were forced to pay closer attention to the actors' expressions and the nuances of the storytelling. It was like watching a film for the very first time, and it made me appreciate the power of visual storytelling in a whole new way. As I lay in bed that night surrounded by silence, I reflected on the day's experiences. It had been challenging, frustrating, and at times even lonely. But it had also been eye-opening. I realized how much I take spoken language for granted. I had also discovered the power of non-verbal communication. A smile, a touch, a look in the eye. These things could convey so much more than words sometimes. Most importantly, the experience had forced me to slow down, to really listen, not just to others but also to myself. The constant chatter in my head had quieted, replaced by a sense of stillness and calm. It was a feeling I wanted to hold on to. Try it sometime. Spend a day in silence. You might be surprised by what you hear.